Kobayashi's Dragon Maid has become one of my favorite slice of life shows in recent years, which is funny because I didn't really think much of it at first. Like, I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, it just didn't blow my mind because there were other shows like Konosuba Season 2 which came out the same season, as well as MHA, Mob Psycho, and Haikyuu Season 3, shows that came out the previous year that I was still catching up with. 4 years later, Dragon Maid Season 2 drops, and watching it made me realize how great of a series this is. Sure, it has its fair share of laughs, but what really puts it over the top for me is its emphasis on what it means to find a home. There's this overarching narrative of whether or not humans and dragons can come to understand each other. For the longest time, dragons have had a distaste for humans, seeing them as inferior beings, but also beings that bring about destruction and chaos. And yet, to maintain this balance, dragons are unable to interfere with the humans on Earth. But then you have Toru, a dragon that was saved by a human, Kobayashi. Toru and Kobayashi share a very unique relationship. Having been alone for most of her life, Toru rarely had any positive interactions with humans. The only thing she knew was that she was born into the Chaos faction and that they were fighting the Divine. She never knew what it meant to be free. If the fighting had stopped, would she be free? Would it even end at all? Even if it did end and she was free, what would she do? Toru had never made a choice of her own free will, but she was fine with that. After all, there was no one she truly valued at that point, until she met Kobayashi. It hadn't dawned on her the pain of being alone until she was on the verge of death. Because Kobayashi had saved her, Toru was given a second chance. She wanted to put faith in someone else this time, someone who knew what it meant to be alone. Toru's always been met with the same question throughout the show. Why are you choosing to live with humans? It's a question that Kana, Fafnir, and even Toru asked herself, and the reason was simple. It's because she met Kobayashi. Kobayashi changed her perception of not only humans, but herself as well. The more time she spent with Kobayashi, the more Toru came to understand and appreciate humans as companions. For the first time in a long time, she was happy. Lukua even tells Kobayashi that Toru has never had anything normal. All the dragons we've seen so far have gone through strife. It's pretty much the only thing they knew, but they're still able to interact with humans. They know that there's more to life than just fighting. At least, that's what Kobayashi believes. And I think that belief holds true to Toru as well. She wanted to escape from it all, and only told a select few that she was still alive. She was happy living a normal life because it was something she'd never experienced. More importantly, it was the first decision she made of her own free will. Toru wants to understand things that she can't. That is to say, she wants to understand humans. But there's always this looming fear that she'll never be able to do that because of their differences. Humans don't like change. They're afraid of things that are different from themselves. If you stand out too much, you're gonna be rejected, or as Kobayashi would put it, eliminated. As dragons, there's no real need to blend in with humans, but living with them teaches us that difference isn't always a bad thing. While yes, differences can lead to suffering, but they can also breed long-lasting friendships, as we continue to respect one another and strengthen our bonds. Knowing you're different from others is only the start. You'll eventually find aspects that you'll like and begin to forge trust. Want proof? Well, you don't have to look very far. Toru and Kobayashi have been living together for quite some time, but it's not just these two. The other dragons like Kana, Fafnir, Lukua, and Ilulu have all found a place to call home. Despite their past circumstances, views, and actions, these 4 dragons were all able to find a human they're willing to trust. For Kana, Kobayashi was very understanding of her situation. After being exiled from her home, Kana came to an entirely new environment all on her own, so it was natural for her to be hesitant in trusting humans. After some time, however, she begins to feel more comfortable around humans, but what she wanted the most was to experience the love of a parent. She found that through Kobayashi. For Fafnir, it was a matter of finding a hit among the sea of misses. Unlike Toru, he still believes that dragons and humans aren't able to coexist. In fact, he hates being referred to as a human. However, he is interested in Toru's case, where she is able to live alongside humans and wants to see how long it'll last. According to Fafnir, only strength exists in dragons, meaning there's no concept of child or adult. They've only adopted these phrases because of humans. In the end, dragons are just mimicking humans. They're aware that these values lead to foolishness, but desire them anyway. This goes back to when Fafnir asked Toru if she'd ever return to her world. If she did, would she be able to kill humans again? What would she do when Kobayashi eventually dies? For Toru, she's well aware of the sadness that comes with forming these long-lasting friendships. But she doesn't want to call those feelings regret. She has faith in humans, because Kobayashi is one of them. Although Fafnir doesn't want to admit it, he's formed a similar bond with Takiya. Their relationship isn't like Toru's and Kobayashi's. They don't outwardly show appreciation for one another, but rather respect. Takiya isn't treating Fafnir any different than he would anyone else. I feel like he's just letting him do his thing and just appreciates his company. For Fafnir, he doesn't see Takiya as a threat, in the traditional sense at least. He's different from the other humans he's encountered, in that he doesn't want anything in return. In other words, Takiya has shown him that not all humans are alike, and that you can find a diamond in the rough. Lukua was never one to stay in one place for a long period of time, which is ironic given that she has a fear of losing a home. She was driven away from her homeland and felt as though she wasn't needed. She doesn't like staying in one place because she's afraid of getting too attached to it. There's this constant fear of what if she gets tossed away like before. However, she was willing to give trust another chance. She was happy to know that someone needed her, and I can't think of anyone more perfect than Shota to live alongside her. Shota is an inexperienced magician, but Lukua admires how hard he works to improve himself. All she wants now is to see him grow up to be the splendid magician she knows he can be. And although few and far between, Shota does have moments where he shows concern and even appreciation for Lukua as well. He knows how amazing of a magical being she is and can't understand why she agreed to be his familiar. Nevertheless, he's grateful to have met her, and he does appreciate the kindness and support she's given him, even though he can't really show it. Ilulu is different from the other three in that she knows both sides of the spectrum. She knows what it's like to befriend humans, but also the consequences that come along with it. That said, Ilulu is still a victim in this case. She loved humans very much, but a string of unfortunate events forced her to have a change of heart. She was told that nothing good comes out of coexistence with humans, because humans were the enemies. But Ilulu didn't want to believe it. She had two friends whom she knew wouldn't do anything wrong. So why did they have to die? There was still so much she wanted to learn from them, but fate wouldn't allow it. Although she preached how foolish it was to coexist with humans, that's not how she really felt. It was an idea that was forcibly instilled in her because she didn't know what else to do. She told herself that becoming friends with humans would only cause her pain, when in reality, it wasn't the case. She hid her true feelings because she didn't want to fall for the same trick, but she was willing to let Kobayashi trick her, the first human in a long time whom she could learn to trust once more. While every dragon we encountered came from all different walks of life, Kobayashi's is nothing to write home about. She was born into a normal family, went to school like everyone else, and works a regular office job. On the surface, it didn't seem like much, but there was an underlying sense of loneliness. She knew it was there, but she didn't know what to do about it. Everything changed when she met Toru, however. Suddenly, her life started becoming a lot livelier. There was finally someone to break that void. Someone to break the silence whenever she was alone. And then another person appeared. This time, someone much younger than her. This person made her realize that sometimes the smallest things mean the world to others. But when Toru disappears all of a sudden, her life reverted back to how it was before. That's why when Toru did come back, she made sure never to let her go. Because Toru was more than just a magical dragon or a maid. She was an irreplaceable friend who taught her so much more than she could ever imagine. I'm gonna be real with you. I rewatched this show 2 times in a span of 2 days to really get a grasp of what I wanted this video to be about. The more I watched it, the more I fell in love with the characters and the message this show was trying to tell the viewer. Differences are something we can't avoid, but that's okay because we've learned to live with them our whole lives. Strong and meaningful bonds can always be forged because of them. It's just a matter of believing that they'll last.